What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Fire and Favor podcast, season 3, where we talk about God's fire
and favor
in our lives. We are so excited to have you here. Happy New Year to you all. We're very blessed. We're very thankful. We're very happy for another new year. Happy that you are joining us. Happy that you are able to listen to us. And we hope you enjoy this season. We got a juicy one on deck for you. We're going to be talking about Christian living and how to live a Christian life. This first episode, we're going to be talking about friendship and community, specifically within Christian living. We'll get to that in a second, but we just want to say hi and hello and how are you?
Yeah, I'm really excited for this season and for this episode. Fellowship is something, and community is something that lacks in a lot of churches. And when we look at the early church, which we're going to do right now in Acts 2:42, they had such fellowship, community, and unity that, especially in America, we really need. And so let's read that. Acts 2:42, they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and fellowship, and to the breaking of bread and to prayer. Everyone was filled with awe at the many wonders and signs performed by the apostles. All the believers were together and had everything in common. They sold property and possessions to give to anyone who had need. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to their numbers daily those who were being saved.
I love this because it just gives us a picture. You know, I think of Christianity. I think more of just a church or a building or a place. To me, from the very get-go, it was about friendship, community, people I looked up to. I remember being 18 years old and I saw 3 other college students worshiping their hands, hanging out after church, going out on a Friday night to like play games or to worship or have a bonfire. And I thought, this is living, L-I-V-I-N. This is Christianity. Yeah. And it's Acts 2:42. It's what you just read. I absolutely love that verse. You know, I've seen it on kitchens, on walls. I've seen it up on like decorations, and it always is so sweet because the sweetness of breaking bread. I think of Jesus, and when Jesus talks about the communion, when you break bread and take this in remembrance of me, I believe he's not just saying, hey, when you go eat a little wafer and drink a little sip of grape juice. I believe he's talking about like a meal. When you sit down to break bread with people and drink whatever you're drinking, that you would actually have a remembrance of me, have remembrance of who I am, what I did, and you would have a sweet fellowship in the midst of communion. I just thought of that randomly today when I was thinking about this, that communion, maybe Jesus, it's bigger than just us just taking it at a church service and a little grape juice. I love that. Appreciate it. At the same time, I think it might be bigger where we sit down on a table when we eat. You don't even necessarily have to have grape juice or wine, but you can actually be doing other stuff, but you're breaking bread together in remembrance of him.
Yeah. I mean, that's so beautiful because even if we think of the early church, the Jewish people, how they would celebrate, feasts is that they would celebrate with food, and they would remember and they would tell stories. And the early church did this in light of Jesus and stories about Jesus. And I just have really fond memories of when we lived in a basement in Minnesota, and we didn't have it very often, but a few times we got to break bread with the people that lived above us, that owned the house. And just all they did was talk about God stories. And there was something so holy about food and about eating food together and talking about God and talking about Jesus and how he's moved in our lives. And we need that. We need that back in our lives to eat together. A lot of people are afraid to do it. It's vulnerable. I remember I read a book about Christian living, and one thing that they talked about was how holy food is. And they said that when films are doing and movies are doing scenes, the hardest scene to do is actually when people eat around a dinner table. It's not, people would think like a sex scene. They would think, you're meeting the parents for the first time, or just, you're in school. It's actually having a normal meal together as a family, because there's so much that comes out in our family meals. I'm sure many of us can think of horrible things, but also amazing things that have been said around the dinner table, because there's a holiness aspect of it. So I love that you touched on that with communion, I think Jesus does want us to do more than just a small piece of wafer and grape juice and then move on with our lives. I think he invites us to have fellowship like the early church did.
Well, this is a perfect segue for the sponsor of the video. Because I was thinking, you know what? What if we get like Gracie Cake's bread in the communion? What if...
Should have.
Should have. It's like, get her some homemade sourdough bread. I'm serious. At communion with that, we'll do that every day.
Yeah.
I'll do that 3 times a day. I'll do that every meal. Sponsor of this video, like always, is Thriving Provisions Sourdough Heritage. Some of the best sourdough in the world. Carefully preserved through generations. Gracie's great-great-grandpa making biscuits over the fire in rural Montana has been passed down to my beloved wife, and now she has a thriving, successful business. Find her on her website, thrivingprovisions.com, and Etsy.
Yeah, that's a perfect segue.
I wanted to read a couple Proverbs here. And you know, these are famous Proverbs. I just want to mention them quickly as we talk about community, as we talk about friendships, as we talk about being with one another. We have some stories we're going to share, but some quick Proverbs. These are famous ones. Proverbs 17:17. A friend loves at all times, but a brother is born for adversity. I love both those sides of it. I love the friends that are love at all times. I love the brothers that are born for adversity. We all go through hard stuff. We all have adversity. Brothers are there, thick and thin. I think of a war zone when I read that second half of that verse. I think of like a war zone. Brothers are made for war. And then the first part, friends are love at all times. No matter if there's offense, disagreements, opinions, this, that, and the other. Friends love at all times. Hardships, good times, bad times. Proverbs 27:17. Iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. Another famous verse. It's that ironing, sharpening iron. I love that because, you know, the first time I heard something like this is when I was 18, 19 years old. I didn't have this lingo back when I grew up. I didn't know about this verse. Probably my fault. Probably didn't listen the best in Sunday school. But the point is, when I heard this, I went, wow. It's profound. It's absolutely profound when you think about how iron is sharpened, how it's sharpening one, and that's how we are as people, as believers, with friends, with brothers, with sisters, with family, with breaking of bread, with doing community with one another. We are actually equipping one another, strengthening one another, and perfecting something beautiful for the other person. Yeah. I just wanted to mention those famous proverbs, and I think of also Acts chapter 4. I don't know if you have anything you want to mention. Just jump in. It's the famous verse, one heart, one accord, and sharing everything. It's really similar to Acts 2:42. That's another one that always just kind of comes to my mind. Acts 2:42 and then Acts 4, one heart and one accord. They were in one place in Acts 2, and then Acts 4, they were one heart and one accord. Yeah. They shared everything. You know, how many people, you know, we can invite people over and have a dinner, which we love. Gracie's really good at hospitality. We love hosting people. We love friends. The more the merrier. I love it. At the same time, are we sharing everything? Are we sharing our possessions? That's a different story to me. That's a different level. I can invite someone over for dinner, which is awesome. Let's start there. Let's start with a little conversation. But to share everything with everyone, that's next level. I think of the people that Gracie mentioned, some of our mentors, people we look up to, the basement we lived in southern Minnesota. They shared what they had, not just with us, but with the multitudes. There's many stories of them sharing their house, their basement, possessions, helping people. Yeah. They're not perfect, but they have been sharing what God has given to them and what God has blessed them with. They are blessing others in whatever way that's specific to them. And so that's just an example of that.
I mean, I love that you were talking about sharing everything. I think of being vulnerable, sharing our weakness. How often can we, meet with people for coffee or have people over, and we're not willing to go to those vulnerable, dark, secret places of our heart or the healthy places of our heart because we're like afraid. And I think we need that back. We need vulnerability to go places, in a sense, in order to have community and friendships. I'm so grateful for some of the friends that I've met at the International House of Prayer. It was a really amazing experience for me. The first day of school, during orientation, I met my two best friends, Letty and Bobby Jean. We were all wearing white shirts and skinny jeans, and we just found each other. It was so fun, and that friendship to me has been so dear. I feel like I can lean on them and depend on them. I can call them and be honest and real. I've had many moments where I call them, maybe that we haven't talked in weeks, and I say, look, this is what's going on in my life, and I just really need help. And they listen to me. They pray for me. They encourage me. I love that my friends saw my love story and that they fight for my marriage and they believe in our marriage. I remember Benji Nolo. I interviewed him for a project in school, and I just asked him for some words of advice and wisdom as we were preparing to get married. And he said, surround yourself with people that know your story and believe in you, because a time will come in your marriage where it's being tested, and you're looking at the people around you, and you need those people that cheer you on and know your history and say, no, you guys, this is who Keegan is, or this is who you are, and this is your marriage, and this is what you're made for. So I want to be that type of person to other friends. But then I also just want to give a little shout out to my friends, Bobby, Jean, and Letty, because they've been the most amazing friends to me.
Wow, I love it. That's so good. 1 Peter 4:8 talks about loving one another earnestly. And that's the command that Peter's giving to the church, to love one another earnestly, to have a deep, profound, real love for your brother, for your sister. And I think of you and Bobby, Jean, and Letty. Yeah. I think of you three and just having that deep love for one another, and how you've gone above and over for each other, celebrate each other's birthdays, birthday weeks. Is that right? Birthday months, for crying out loud. You guys do a whole month of celebrations. I don't think I've ever heard something like that before in my life, before I met you three. And I
have to say something. So we're all married now and we're all pretty busy, but it's awesome because our husbands are the biggest supporters and fans of us getting all together. Because there's been a couple of times where we want to plan a trip or something, and we're like, okay, well, I need to talk to Keegan. I need to talk to Chase. I need to talk to Cyprian. And then we come back and we're like, our husbands, we're 100% on board. So it's just so fun to have that friendship, but then also have our spouses cheering us on.
Yeah, I love that. Those guys are legends, Chase and Sip. I thought of Eric because you're sharing with that. You know, I have a really good friend, Eric Weiss. We actually did a video. I'll probably have to post the link in the description below. But Eric and I did a video about friendship and how he was there for me when I was going through a really tough time. And a year plus ago, about a year ago, and he came and took time out of his schedule and sacrificed a lot just to be there for me, as I needed a friend. I needed a friend to love, and be there for me. I needed a brother to fight with me, and he was that for me. And so I hope I can do the same for him and for others. And I love community. I just love friendships. You know, I think of this culture in that we live in, post-COVID, especially with the advancement of technology, how it's so easy to stay in your own little circle, square, room, apartment, house, place. Yeah. I fall into it all the time. I'm okay, being alone. I'm an introvert, but I just know also the sweetness of fellowship, the command to love one another, to get together, to break bread with one another, to be in one heart, one accord, one place, to have fellowship, to have deep community. And so I challenge myself. It helps my wife, or having my wife as well, but just to be with those friends and just encourage you. I come away from a lot of those times, I feel encouraged, uplifted. I'm like, that was better than I thought. I just wanted to kind of sit on the couch tonight and watch the game, and maybe we'll do that. But I felt, a little wind in my sails, so to speak. And so I think it's something like a new, I think in 2024, I think also you can do community online, and that's great. And there's different apps and avenues and platforms. I think that's awesome. I don't know if it replaces actually getting together with one another. I know that we went through COVID and that was like lockdown, and so I'm going to turn the mic off, but I think it's back on. But whatever happens in the future, I really do hope and pray and believe that we'll have opportunities to be together, to walk with one another, walk through lives. It's the other verse that talks about weeping with those who weep and rejoicing with those who rejoice. when you're with one another within the same room, you can kind of feel that more. You can feel the emotion. You can hug them. You can weep with them. You can jump with them, rejoice, weep. Online, you can still do that. It's different. It's different. And so to do it with one another and just be in the same place, one heart, one mind, one accord, I think is very, very, very needed, especially in the hours. It seems like we're going more and more towards isolation, more and more towards just people being, you might not leave your place in how many days or however long. And so I think it's very important. Yeah. Also, Galatians 6:2, carry one another's burdens. Paul talks about carrying one another's burdens. And whatever someone's going through, you're helping them. You're carrying it with them. You're feeling it with them. And it's just important just to I believe I do love all the platforms, social media, and so I believe you can do some of this on there. I really do. At the same time, I think it's important to have in-person dialogue. I don't really know what I'm talking about, but I think both are good.
Yeah, I agree. I think that technology gives an illusion that you're super connected and you can say things that you wouldn't normally say to someone's face. But when you see that person, it's like a weird elephant in the room. You don't know what they're thinking. It's just really, it kind of it's helpful and I appreciate it and I use it a lot, but it can't, like Keegan said, replace one-on-one conversations, group conversations, eating meals together. The enemy wants to isolate us as believers. And there's so much power in being together. For example, when Eric came to be there for Keegan, we had been talking to Eric almost every day before that. We called him, we texted him, he was praying for us. But when you have a brother or sister in the mud with you, fighting for you, it really just is a whole nother level of intimacy, understanding, friendship, and it produces beautiful fruit in our lives. I was thinking of that verse in Hebrews when it says to not stop meeting together, and how much we didn't know we needed that verse until COVID happened, and people were watching church and stuff online, but we couldn't meet together, and it was so painful. And I think the hardest part is that when COVID was done, a lot of people didn't come back to church, and some people have still not come back to church. And just that longing to be with one another. And I remember the church that we were a part of, New Creation World Outreach Church in Minnesota, they stress that importance. Let's be together. Come to church if you're able to, because it's so valuable to just be physically present together. And the enemy, like I said, he wants to isolate us. And so it's so vital that we continue to meet together.
Yes, absolutely. I love it. So we're opening up our house 10 o'clock tomorrow night. Come on over. We'll post the address below.
I wanted you to maybe share a story or two. Keegan, you grew up in a house that was always full. Your parents created a culture where anybody and everybody felt welcome. And it wasn't necessarily meeting together to pray or read the Bible, but there was some beautiful fellowship. There was some food. There was laughter. There was joy. What can you share about maybe some of those memories?
You share a couple of the stories.
No. I want you to share.
No, you share, honey.
You share.
You probably have a few off the top of your head that you're thinking of. I just
remember you talking about, your mom, that she would sit down with people. She still does this. But she would sit down with everybody. She would stop whatever she was doing at the time and just talk to people and listen to them. And that made people feel so welcome. I think nobody really cares about the house or even the food sometimes, but just having someone listen to you and look at you with so much love, that really speaks volumes. And I know your mom and dad do that. And we still feel that when we come and see them and talk to them. They're just amazing listeners and supporters. But then what else would you say? Your mom always had food, and the door was, what was her saying? She's going to listen to this. The door's always open.
I think so.
I think she said the door is always open, and there would be aunts over and cousins over, and a few people that are handicapped, and there'd be a neighbor stopping by, and like there's been so many times where I'm over there and Doreen's here, Andrea's here, Grandpa Pat is here, and it's just like a never-ending circus.
It's a good way to put it. Grand Central Station is what they used to call it. That's awesome. Shout out to my mom. Hi, Mom. She's the best. She's awesome. Yeah, I think that's very important to have that, just like openness in your home. And I think a lot of it stems down to, are you listening and are you talking with people? I think people really felt heard and that they could have someone to talk to. They don't have to do the talking because, maybe the person just wants to come and listen. They need someone to talk to them. So that individual would have enough to talk about for an hour or two to keep them preoccupied or keep them on the edge of their seat or keep them whatever, because they can talk and be able to talk comfortably and freely no matter who's in front of you. And then also vice versa, it's very hard to get both of these traits in one individual. Be an excellent listener, because a lot of times you can have talkers talk, and then they're just talking away. They don't actually listen to someone. A lot of times you have listeners that don't ever talk. And so to have both those traits where you can just talk up a storm and share stories and make people feel welcome, and then flip it like a switch and then listen for 30, 40 minutes while throwing in a few things in between. I noticed that those two things in one individual is very rare. And I believe my parents had that, and they were able to invite people over and listen to people and talk with people and make people feel welcome. Because when you do that, people feel welcome. They can talk, they can listen, you can talk. It's just, you have this relationship. Relationship is built on trust. And then words and talking with one another. You build trust through words and talking and actions. And so I think it's very important. Yeah, and I love it. My parents were a great example of this. I think of Acts 2:42. My family growing up, we had great meals. I could go on and on and on about my family and my parents' great uprising. And so just remember all the meals we had at our place. It was awesome.
Yeah, I know, special memories. It really was. Yeah.
So that's all we got, Grace.
Yeah. Shout out to all of our friends and family, and I hope this provokes each and every one of you to find community, to find friendship. Community is built, and nobody's perfect at it. We all need help and a nudge. So here's your nudge today to be a friend, to be a good listener, to be someone who shares your heart, shares your home, shares your possessions.